Well, you're tuned in to Kelly and Company, and on today's program, Kevin Shaw is going to teach us how to write a business Valentines to show those company out there how much you adore them. Now, there's so many, get them lined up. We're getting ready to learn how to do it. Also on the show, film critic Michael McNeely is back to chat about the importance of accessibility for a large-scale event, highlighting the work being done at this year's Sundance Film Festival for an inclusive experience. We hit our action button right now.
This is Kelly and Company.
With me on the show today, back after a few days, Nasreen Abdel-Majid. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And we're going to really get into it. Niz has some things to share with us later on, ladies and gentlemen. So much great content as we rock our way through the week, already at Wednesday. A note, folks, we're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with every decision that we make here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and, of course, accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies that they participate in. Yay! For more information or how you can join, go to ami.ca/panel. We'd love to have you on board.
And why is self-love so important to our health? Francis Wong is here with the answer. As far as Hallmark themes go, February is the month most associated with Valentine's Day, and with that only a few days away, we're here to talk about self-love. Welcome back, Francis.
Thanks, Nasreen. So Valentine's is a time for couples and to show how much we love our partners, and it can really suck for single people. But the good news is that this episode is for everyone, because we're not going to be talking about how to celebrate the love for another. We're going to be talking about love for ourselves, and we don't need a partner to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really good, when you think about, and Francis, I love when we get into the loving ourselves. It's sort of like appreciating ourselves, patting yourself on the back for jobs well done, different things like that we know we should do, but human beings struggle with recognizing that we need to do that and make that a practice.
Yeah, and it's not only sometimes terrible for people who are single and lonely, but the good thing about looking forward to after Valentine's Day is that we can get some serious discount on chocolates the way that we do after Halloween is over. So let's talk about the definition of start. And so Oxford Reference describes it as an intense feeling of fondness or attraction, deeper and stronger than liking, especially when associated with a romantic or sexual attachment to someone. Now, Merriam-Webster describes self-love as love of self, as you mentioned, Kelly, such as an appreciation of one's own worth or virtue, or proper regard for and attention to one's own happiness or well-being. And then, of course, if you take it to the extreme, self-love could be something like narcissism.
Right.
And I also want to kind of talk about the definition of radical self-love. Have you heard of that term before?
Not me.
No.
So Sonia Renee Taylor defines radical self-love as our inherent state of being as worthy and enough. She's an activist and an author who wrote the book called The Body Is Not an Apology. And she has stated also, as we learn to make peace with our bodies and make peace with our other people's bodies, we create an opening for creating a more just and equitable world. So radical self-love is the idea that we deeply and unconditionally love and accept ourselves, including our flaws and all. And she uses the term radical because it goes against the typical way society runs. And I'll get that to that in a bit, but she believes that when we choose to love ourselves in such a radical way, that we benefit and affect those around us and society as a whole. And the hope is that it's radical enough to change systems.
Well, I've always been told that, it's really important to practice self-love before you get into a relationship. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us why that is important?
Yes. So when we feel good about ourselves, we are less likely to make more choices in personal and professional personal life. You can just, if you're feeling bad about yourself or feeling down, you start binge eating or doing some other, not so healthy habits. So, having that self-love is important. It's also that we would be less likely to be swayed by others or moved whichever way the wind is blowing, because we can be solid with who we are. But unfortunately, not so easy in this culture and society. We put so much emphasis on physical appearances and also material possessions. So often people value themselves based on things, when in reality, we are worth more than how we appear and what things we own. And then, of course, society is indirectly pressuring us to compare ourselves to others. So it's either the Kardashians or the Real Housewives or whatever city of the moment. And it's the celebrities, who are going under the knife for a plastic surgery to achieve a certain look. So that constant keeping up with Joneses is enough to make anyone feel inadequate and enough. But going back to your point, Nazreen, some people do believe that you can't really truly love another person until you love yourself first. But Brian Dunn, who is a certified dating and relationship coach, he doesn't necessarily agree with this. And he says that we should, of course, try to love ourselves more. But he stresses that relationships shouldn't be our only or our prime source of validation and feelings of worthiness. And he turns it around to say that the more you know how to love yourself, the easier it will be to have a healthy, loving relationship with someone else. So someone who questions their own self-worth may be more likely to expect rejection from a partner or misinterpret a neutral act by their partner as hostile. So it's all framed from, our own feelings and perspective, and then we kind of apply that to the outer world and how it's reflecting back to us.
It's kind of like you said, the reflecting is the words that as soon as you were talking, I was thinking a mirror, because if you expect that of yourself, you may expect that in some way or another in others or from others, and it has to be on yourself to be satisfied, be happy with yourself. If there's things the things you feel are important to better yourself about, are really the things that you want to work on, the things that are important to you. Can we take a step back and talk about how many different types of love there is?
Yeah, so there's no set number, but I did find something that was really interesting. And of course, no person is the same, and not all forms of love are the same. And so there are 8 types of love according to FTD. And this is if you're not familiar with them, they are a very well-known floral distributor. And I would tend to think that they've come up with these different types of love so that there's always an occasion to send flowers to someone. But we'll start with the first one, which is affectionate love, which is also what they call philia, which is love that runs deep in true friendships. So something like a brotherly love. The second type of love is something called enduring love or pragma, and that's more of a mature love that develops over time. Third, we have familiar love or storge, and that is love rooted between parents and children or childhood friends. Number 4 is romantic love or eros, and we think of Valentines when we associate with that, the personal infatuation and physical pleasure and that primal love. And then 5, maybe this one should be actually before number 4, is playful love, which is ludus, and that is childlike and flirtatious love, and that's kind of the beginning of the honeymoon stages. Number 6, we have obsessive love or mania, and that's obvious in the title, in the name of it. It's the obsessiveness or madness over a love partner. Number 7 is selfless love or agape. This is empathic attitude of love for everyone and anyone, and that kind of involves giving without expecting anything in return. And then we return back to number 8, which is self-love or philosia, which is that healthy form of love where you recognize your self-worth and acknowledge your responsibility for your well-being.
Wow. It's interesting when you think of the structures, what the viewpoints are, and what people through life experience. And not everybody experiences each one of those, would they? I mean, or feel that we do.
What caught me is
I
the
would say
obsessive
so.
self-love. It just reminds me of what caught me is the obsessive love. Mm-hmm. That just reminds me of like loving a celebrity and being obsessed with them.
Right.
That is very, very true. And again, that's that projection of looking out for that validation and that worth. So, we can talk about like the importance of it and how we can actually do some practices to bring ourselves back to that awareness of self-love and self-worth. Are we okay to talk about a bit of that?
It would be wonderful to think of where in the world has that Valhalla where people have the self-love, because it's such it seems to be that cornerstone. No matter what you want to say, whichever you're talking about, whichever viewpoint you have, it's got to start at home with being pleased, satisfied with yourself to the right degree. I mean, obviously you don't want to be self-absorbed, self-loved, and which turns into a self-centeredness. But yes, you've got to be able to pat yourself on the back, appreciate yourself. And that I wonder if there is a society, because you mentioned, the way we see things over here in North America a lot. And I wonder if there's somebody's ever charted this throughout the world to say, hey, because we always go on, what country is the best to live in for this reason, that reason, this reason. And I wonder if people have ever stopped to think where people are, I don't want to say the people self-love themselves the most and make it sound of self-absorbing, but as much as satisfaction, which is really a wonderful, healthy thing in my head about who you are, what you are. I mean, obviously you want to always encourage yourself, but there has to be points in life where you're very satisfied and like who you are. Anyway, go ahead, Frances.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your point, I think that certain cultures definitely cultivate that. If we look at some of the more Asian countries, people tend to live together in families, multi-generationally, whereas, North America, there's that tendency to, leave home as soon as you can, and there's that independent spirit. And so there's less of when I feel that if we have a family unit, there's more sharing and collaboration and more awareness of others. Whereas when we are more in a North American society, and it's not just North America, I'm just choosing that as an example because it's very clear that's where we are, that there's more of an individualized, more self-centeredness, and what can I do for myself versus more of like, what can I do for my family or society at large? But bringing this back to, when we're talking about how can we, raise that awareness for our own self-love, we can talk about practices like self-care, and we can just start with the basics, good diet, exercise, sleep, socializing with friends. Honestly, sometimes people treat their pets better than they do for themselves. You want to love every part of yourself, even your flaws or what you perceive as your flaws. And sometimes, other people might admire you for the things that you don't actually like about yourself. The other things that we can in mind are things like mindfulness. So again, we've talked about this. Those who have self-love tend to know what they want and feel and think. So, be aware and deliberate in your decisions and actions. Most of the day we're on autopilot. So, instead of just reacting in a certain way, make those conscious choices and when you're deciding to do anything or answering someone and speaking. So being conscious and mindful doing that. And then, we want to set boundaries. So, listen to yourself over others. So when you're so strong in your beliefs that you'll do what's right for yourself rather than, what others say you should do. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know if I should do this or that. You have a gut feeling. So, listen to that. You can ask other people for their opinion. Deep down, you probably have a good idea of what you really want to do. So if you're strong in your conviction, then people can't easily sway you.
Yeah.
And, this doesn't make you selfish. It just means that you're looking out for yourself and you know what's best for yourself.
But Frances, here in North America, before you continue, that is what I find, even in my word choices as we talk about this, I keep going back to not to be self-absorbed, that reaction that, well, I'm not promoting people just look out for themselves, all for one, no, never mind that, all for me, like kind of thing. And it's so funny how we're so worried about being viewed that way or coming off sounding like I am, excuse me, I can't say we, I'm promoting, oh no, just worry about you. That's the first go-to to make sure I correct myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
What we're saying to other people, it's never going to be, I mean, there's no way of pleasing everyone. So, I think it's a matter of finding out what's you want to be true to yourself, do it in a kind way that doesn't necessarily offend others, but at the same time, is it really who we cannot take on other people's issues? That maybe it's a reflection on themselves if other people are reacting in that way. So again, what we talked about, that mirror of, what is the world reflecting back to you? So if you're saying something or someone says something to you and you respond in a certain way, react in a certain way, even that can be a way to kind of bring mindfulness and awareness. And you can ask yourself, like, why am I reacting like this? And,
Yes.
and then look at it from that perspective. And that leads into the next thing, which is we want to forgive ourselves. This one is a really hard one. A lot of people can be really hard on themselves, and I can relate. We have to remember that we're not perfect and that we can make mistakes, and as long as we learn from them, then there's really no such thing as a failure. And also, so I think that it's kind of important, to remember that we're human, that we're not perfect. So, and take it easy on yourself when we're all experiencing and we're still learning and growing as we, continue day to day. So there's again, if you look at it from a learning perspective and a growth perspective, then there's no such thing as failure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just have to remind yourself that everybody's in the same position. We live in a society where we have this perception that our physical appearance is the most important thing. So there's so much pressure. You compare yourself to a lot of people on social media. Social media plays a big part in this. But yeah, we're growing together, and we're, sometimes we do need validation. We do need support. We do need love from others, but just growing as a person, trying to practice self-love, by yourself is really important. Thank you so much, Frances.
You're welcome.
That was Frances Wong talking to us about why self-love is important to our health. And Kelly, that was a great conversation, and we're gonna continue this in a bit.
Yeah. We're all a work in progress, right? And I think you almost feel sometimes embarrassed by your own, gee, I need to be better at that, or, oh, I made that stupid mistake. Everyone in the world knows I did because, I'm during my 15 minutes of fame and all cameras are on me. And I find that's what works on us so much, almost like we have to confess, oh my gosh, I made that mistake, or geez, that was kind of selfish of me. I should have thought more of others instead of myself. But you caught yourself. You recognize it, where unfortunately sometimes some of us don't. But it is that whole apology thing. We're so apologetic because we don't want to get caught or viewed a certain way, instead of looking at what we do. And unfortunately, there are a piece for those who may be very self-absorbed, only interested in what works out best for themselves, and they come to grips with that, and they're fine with that. And I think that that's something we recognize, whether you want to be that kind of person or assess yourself as that and say, yeah, but you know what? I'm fine with that. The self-awareness piece has always been something that I've always viewed as important. You don't necessarily have to change something that others may say, you're a jerk about stuff like that. You should change that. No, I'm fine with it. Or, hey, you know what? Your giving heart is so wonderful. You're really great at that. But you got to stop putting yourself in a position of giving everything you have away, or spending so much money on people it'll bankrupt you. But some people will say, I'm fine with that. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. So we're going to continue the conversation about love and romance, because a few days ago we posted a Twitter poll question asking you guys, where do you find your favorite TV romance? And the options were classic romantic films, reality TV, soap operas, or rom-com series. And 33% said classic romantic films. 33% picked soap operas. That's surprising. Really? And 34% of you guys said rom-com series. Nobody picked reality TV series, and I think that's not a surprise, because I watch Love is Blind, and right. Guys, I think you guys have to agree that reality TV shows, I don't feel like that's where you find romance. That's where you find drama.
right?
Isn't it interesting too, because it's reality, allegedly,
Yeah.
right? Soap operas, you giggled at soap operas because we all know about, oh, the so-and-so romance of so-and-so on Days of Our Lives or whatever. But for me, the most romance I've watched as a years ago, I was quite a soap fan of Days and some of the others, Days and Young and the Restless. I would say my exposure to that stuff, the romance, if you want to call it whatever you call it on any of these things, okay? Like, I'm not going to judge on which one people think, hey, that's the one you should be following. They do romance well. There's different types what we want to view, not necessarily what we are. But I know myself, my exposure has been mostly to soap operas where we kind of go, oh, really? Okay, but yet reality, no, that's not even real. Well, why is it not reality?
Yeah, you really
You
don't
doubt
feel
it.
like most of
You
it is
doubt it.
real. But,
Yeah.
I watch Love is Blind, and, it's all about finding love, obviously. But I don't see it as finding love. I just focus on the drama of it all and the entertainment of it all. So that's jokes. But so I want to bring Kevin Shaw on. He's been patiently waiting for this next conversation. So before we get to that interview, Kevin Shaw, I want your opinion on this. So leading up to Valentine's Day, we asked you guys to send us your blind date horror stories. And JC's wrote, I met this girl who was an aspiring model. I was really excited about meeting her, and on our first date, she invited me over for dinner and a movie. When we sat down to watch the movie, she stopped and told me she could see the colors of my aura. Now, I have known her for all of 45 minutes, and she says that her aura matches with my aura, and we will be getting married. Now, I'm 24 years old and freaking out, but being 24 and she's just being really hot, I just stayed. Later, she invites me to see her room, and I notice this table with all these candles and strange things. I ask her about it, and she ends up telling me that she is a witch who can cast spells. Then she started talking really strange about how she is a virgin and she wants to make sacrifices. Very strange. And when she left the room, I went out the back door and jumped her fence and got to my car, drove as fast as I could. Thank God the date wasn't at my house. This is crazy. I don't know what I feel like I'd run the same way if I was put in that position. Just I would cast spells on you. No, I would not stay for that situation. That's funny.
Wow. You would almost think it was a kind of a setup, maybe that's
Right?
this is a date, but I consider it April Fool's. Let's see how long it takes for this guy to be able to leap over the fence in the backyard. I mean, Kevin, we've heard all sorts of things like that from people kind of wondering, hey, what's going on? This is kind of strange. And going back to the reality TV thing, you start wondering, is this for real?
Yeah.
Kelly, you and I are thinking the exact same thing, and none of us are going to say it, so I'll say it. We're both thinking of the Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
Of how do you know she's a witch?
Wow. What are the credentials anyway? But all right, Nizreen has another one. Niz, let's lay this one on. What do you got?
Yeah, so Jonas Von wrote, kind of a blind date fail. I had just come back from home from college and was having a night drinking at the local watering hole when I noticed the place had a new attractive bartender. So I started making a bit of conversation. Much to my surprise, we seemed to really hit it off. She starts hinting at if I'm seeing anyone, and I say no. She immediately reaches out. Excuse me. She immediately reaches out into her pocket and starts writing something down. She says, quote, on top is the number at the apartment, and these are directions. We're having a party on Wednesday night, and you should come. Wednesday comes, and I'm dressed up and ready to impress. I head over to her place, knock on the door, and there she is. Looking amazing, she smiles and hugs me, grabs me by the hand, and drags me through the party until she gets to this big dude. Jonas, this is my roommate, Jeff. Jeff, this is Jonas. I do the whole pleasantry thing, but when I turn around, she's gone. I mean, poof, gone. Like Batman. Not knowing anyone else, I just keep on talking to Jeff. Seems like a good guy. Suddenly he stops me mid-sentence and says, "You're not gay, are you?" And I say no. You should really tell Liz that. So she had apparently set up the entire part as an excuse to hook me up with her roommate. I went on a blind date with the dude and didn't even know. That's, this is an awkward moment where you should really express that this is a whole setup. Like, this is
setup.
She gave him hints.
Setup, or Kevin, would you almost, when people sum you up by looking at you and think, hey, and get some impression? That's what I hear in here. Like, okay, the other one to me, it was kind of the setup, and let's see how long it takes him to jump over the fence or to bolt out of here. This one almost seems like that. I guess somehow I misrepresented myself, or this person's shallow enough just to look at people and say, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, she gave the hints, like, are you seeing anyone? Or for any person, you'd think, okay, this person's interested in me. I mean, bring it up, dude. But yeah, that's very awkward. What do you think, Kevin?
Maybe he should have just been more. He's saying that she's an attractive bartender, and maybe he should have been like, "Hey, I'm talking about I'm talking about you here." Although that is quite misleading to say, "Hey, are you seeing anyone?" and proceeding to set him up with her male roommate. So
yeah, I guess if she's intent on trying to help him out, Jeff, and not the least bit interested in this guy. Yeah, or like you say, could be, a joke, but why would you do that to Jeff? Why would you, do that to anybody? Like, I mean, to me, the whole stuff is all pretty straightforward and, okay, to me, it's all potentially, wow, okay, invite him over. But if that's the way you're leading it, and yeah, exactly. Awesomeness. Thank you. Those are great. Those are great stories to share with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And if you guys have any more blind horror stories, blind date horror stories, please send us our way on Instagram or Twitter on Kelly & Co. AMI.
Awesome. And you can email us, folks, kellyco@ami.ca, and call us at 1-866-509-4545. So, a question for you, ladies and gentlemen, and I think it's pretty thoughtful when you think about it. Have you ever gone online to read any reviews of companies and products? Do you ever write them and thank them, question them in a more positive way? Well, of course, Kevin Shaw is with us, and he's going to be talking to us how to work our way through writing a business Valentine to company, because you had a great experience. Kev, do you actually take the time to write any of these kinds of notes? Thank you, give them some positive feedback, or is it generally nasty review on your part? What do you think the percentage is?
Well, we'll go around the table here. So yesterday I actually had I took 2 Lyft rides. And the first ride was terrible, and so I gave a 1-star review and wrote, just an awful review of the driver that I had. And the ride back to my house was actually very, very, very good. I had a great driver, super friendly and really helpful. And I actually wrote a positive review because, we tend to attract those things that we appreciate and that we give our energy to. And so I wanted to take the time to just say some nice things about him, give him a tip, and let others know, like, hey, if you get this driver, he's really friendly and really, really helpful. But what about you guys? Do you take the time to write out the good and the bad, just the bad, or just the good, or do you just not write them at all?
Nazreen?
Well, I feel like it's horrible to say, but I always end up writing the bad if it's a horrible service. I do take the time to be like, okay, this person does not deserve a good review. But when it's a good service, I feel like I forget most of the time.
Mm-hmm. What about a product?
Oh yeah.
Nazreen, what about a product?
Same thing.
Like if you bought something on site, okay, all right.
I actually. There are times, like if it's a really good, for example, I review on Amazon. I do like to take pictures and videos of the product because I find it really helpful, especially if it's a very expensive product where I don't want somebody to buy a very expensive product for nothing. So I do take the time to write a good or bad review. It depends though.
I would do nothing like that. And it's because of the era I'm from, not because I think everything's garbage and nothing. There are so many products out there that I would have years ago not even known how to reach someone at the company that probably cares about what I think of their item, good or bad. But where I got it from, I would be in a minute quick to tell them, even a phone call the next day, say, hey, the setup for this was wonderful. I appreciated the customer service that I dealt with when I came in, blah, blah, blah. Anything like that in a minute, I would have no problem doing in the past. Going online and writing reviews isn't, for something still not a first nature for me to do, complaining or patting them on the back. But I definitely recognize you can't always whine about it. It can't always be when I'm trying to look for some kind of, hey, you guys messed up, how are you compensating me kind of action. But yet you do have to do that. Probably that would be what I would do more online, whereas I would love to be able to reach out to a place and say, hey, the customer service was tremendous. Really thank you guys, because of what it means to me as a blind person, Kevin.
Yeah, and we live in this age now where reviews are sort of tacked on to everything that you buy, every restaurant you go to, every product that you order. We want to know if we're going to get something of value. We want to know if when I put down my money, am I going to get something that's worth my time, worth my money, worth my effort, worth my energy? And we want to find out if somebody has used the product or the service the way that we've intended to. And so we tend to comb through the reviews, and some people are super helpful and they leave like really great positive reviews. And then other people are not. I think within our community, within the sight loss community, one of the things that we like to do is find out, is this going to work for me? Am I going to be able to use this with voiceover? Am I going to be able to use this with JAWS? As a blind person, am I going to be able to go to this restaurant and be treated, like a regular paying customer with sight? And I tend to find that within our community, we tend to complain a lot about things that that we encounter, and we say, we always want to jump to the extreme of like, this company hates blind people and we should never buy these products again, or like, I had a good experience and this is great, and go here and talk to so and so. I think there's a lot to be said for knowing how to write a really great product review, and writing the company a little Valentine and saying, you know what, I had a really good experience. I had to buy a new mattress recently, and I went to a local Canadian company here called Foamite, and they do all the manufacturing and stuff. And they, I went to the showroom by myself, and they were super helpful, helping me get around and stuff, encouraged me to take a nap on the mattress. And we're just super accommodating with the purchase process, everything from purchase to delivery. And I wrote them an email the next day and said, hey, I just want to let you know, this experience was great, start to finish. Please congratulate the team for me. Thank everybody who was involved. And they asked me, and they said, would you put all of this into a Google review? I said, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And so I think doing those kinds of things are really helpful, and I can get into the specifics of that. But
yeah, I would love you to do a little more. I'm just curious, going back to just reviews overall, just quickly, how much do we trust them? How much do we believe they're for real and not plants? Do you care?
Yeah,
you could tell.
Yeah.
You can tell.
You guys, you feel you can tell. I think so too. Not
when
like
it's
I said, I haven't done a lot.
Descriptive. I feel like when it's a very descriptive review, you can tell it's somebody it's an insider comment. You could tell if it's like a bot or if it's a very descriptive comment, then you're like, okay, they know the owner, or it's a relative of some sort. But how much do you guys tend to buy products with 0 reviews? Because I can't buy a product with 0 reviews.
I go for promo demos. I like demos of products because I still am busy thinking, does this work for me? And usually the person will say if they don't like it and how come. That's tend to be where I feel I get the most. Kev?
So you're that early adopter that's willing to give some feedback for like the the beta version of the product.
I no, I don't think I would do that because I'd be too scared. I don't know enough, and I would be useless at articulating that or screw up something of mine. But I'm that person that if somebody said, yeah, this would be a good product, or these are, I'd go online and look at a demo much more than probably the whole schematics of it or people's reviews. Even though that, to me, most cases, your demo, if you find something on YouTube or whatever, is a review.
Yeah, I like reading product reviews, especially if it's going to be a big ticket item. I've got like a hi-fi setup here at home, and I bought a really nice CD player to go with my hi-fi setup because I'm still listening to CDs. But I went through the product reviews and looked up stuff online and looked up stuff on YouTube, and so I like it when the product has a track record, if you will, and people are out there writing honest reviews. The reviews I don't like, and we'll get into the specifics of ways to write a great review, but the ones I don't like are these kind of quick forward reviews, does what it says, and or the product arrived and was not damaged. I was like, okay, well, you haven't used it, so tell me more. Yeah. I think there's certainly a lot of bots out there that and AI now can be used to write product reviews and sort of inflate the the appearance of our product. I think that's where things like TikTok come in, and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and so forth, when you can actually see somebody using the product, taking it through its paces, running it through its functions. And then that way I also think that people can tend to write reviews too early. It's like, I got this after a day. Well, yes, I don't care how it operates after a day. I want to know how this thing is like 3 years down the road.
Yeah. How knowledgeable are you with it? So, Kev, with the letter that we're talking about writing, what should go into it? I mean, what you dictated earlier, the thoughts, the viewpoints, and hey, could you go and do a Google review off the top was really great. I know you want us to kind of break this down, and what should we contain?
So I say write a really good hook at the beginning, something that's going to get the attention of people who are reading your reviews. A lot of the reviews tend to have kind of the same sort of title. I purchased this item on such and such a day. Used it for blah blah blah. Come up with a really good hook, and this solved my problem with vacuuming my dog bed or something. And so it's really hooky and it's memorable. And then you want to be specific in the review. Be specific. When did you buy the product? What made you go out and purchase it? What problem did it solve for you? I think that's one of the key things is like, this actually solved a problem for me. Or in the case of like a service, maybe you went to a restaurant or something, be specific about the experience. I went on this day, we were celebrating our anniversary, or we were celebrating, something. The serving staff was really great. I spoke to, Cindy and Bob and the owner came over and said hello, and we shook hands, and, people like stories and they want something that's going to put them into that experience. And so if you can create that experience for them in their mind and kind of paint that picture, you're on the way to writing a really good product review or a service review. And then just go down the list of the things that you liked and be honest about the things that you didn't like. I think this could have been better. I think, the appetizer that they brought out could have been warmer. I think that, the button placement on the rice cooker that I bought is a little backwards. Be honest, but don't be, so critical that you come off sounding offensive or abusive. Yeah. That's not helpful to the company. The companies, they all like reading those reviews too, because it helps them improve their service. It helps them improve the product. And you never know, maybe you get a call back saying, hey, I saw your great product review. It seems like you had a problem with this, this, and this. We'd like you to test out the new version and maybe compensate you for your time. And so that can go a long way to writing, to creating a great product review. and a really good relationship with the company. You
Yes,
want to make sure
yes.
that you've got a relationship with that company, especially if it's one that you like. And you're like, yeah, guys, I really think you could have, hit it out of the park had you done like A, B, and C. Maybe I could offer you some suggestions. And what you don't want to do is immediately just start complaining and tearing strips off of people and
Yes.
saying,
Taking
hey,
it so
this
personal.
company, this company hates us, and just tone it down a bit and be constructive. And sometimes you can just ask questions in the reviews too and say, somebody can get back to me about this. I really think that I've got a lot of good feedback here.
Mm-hmm. I really like the approach because we take it personal, as if they designed the rice cooker and put that button there just to aggravate you when you bought it. They knew that, unit 7,901 you were going to buy. So they made sure that they had it ready to get Kevin when he buys it. But when you're talking about suggestions and them wanting that kind of honest critique so that the next year's model may have that button moved over is absolutely crucial to the way they do business. And I think we do need to think of it that way instead of them just either with us looking for some kind of refund or some kind of something to get out of our complaint. We want to look at the fact that, hey, maybe next year's model, I'll pawn this one off and buy it because they'll take what I have to say into account if I do it the right way. Anything else, Kevin, closing that we should think about, or other reasons to send these kind of Valentine's letters, if we will, to businesses?
So in the case of a situation where a company does screw up and they get it wrong, again, write a review, be very specific. But if you want a remedy, if you want something to actually happen, put your demands in your letter, in your email, in your. I tend to find that companies really pay attention to snail mail and faxes because it's something that takes up space in their office. And if you do get a company that still has a mailing address, write them a snail mail letter and say, here are the specifics. This is the date this happened. This is what I demand. I demand, 2-night stay at your hotel, or, a free meal at your restaurant. And a lot of companies, especially when you write up to the level of the CEO, they take that stuff seriously, and they're more than willing to reach out and make things right. At least the good ones are.
Perfect. Thank you, pal.
Thank
Appreciate it. Really great advice. Remember, folks, as Kevin's saying here, the feedback is the Breakfast of Champions. Kevin Shaw giving us this information. You can find Kevin, too, on the AMI TV show as host, Mind Your Own Business. Business owners love hearing great feedback so they can keep doing the same thing, soften those nasty reviews, and offer suggestions to make things, constructive for them. Love it. And think a little bit more of writing those letters. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly & Co. At Kelly & Co. AMI. We'd love to hear from you. And as Reen was saying that earlier, please give us the feedback on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly & Co. AMI.
Michael McNeely is back to chat about the importance of accessibility for a large-scale event like a film festival. The Sundance Film Festival is one of the most prestigious independent film festivals in the world. Held annually in Park City, Utah, it showcases new work from both emerging and established filmmakers in various categories. This year, they've paid attention to disability representation in content and accessibility of the festival overall. Hey, Michael McNeely, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope you can understand me.
Absolutely. Can you give us the highlights of the festival for people with disabilities?
Yes, I think it was a really great time to be able to watch films at home, because currently I'm not able to travel as much as I would like. And if I did travel, I may require the assistance of interveners, who are specialized staff that help people who are deaf and blind. But unfortunately, a lot of interveners are for insurance reasons, forced to be in the same province or state that they're working with a client in. So as a result, I'm not able to travel, and I was happy to watch the films online through a streaming service that Sundance used.
Wow. That's kind of neat. So, Michael, to get access to the streaming service, can anybody do that? Is it more of a setup for people in a position of needing some accessibility to enjoy the films, or a modest fee?
At this present time, I was given access because I'm a journalist for AMI.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
it's not necessary for everyone.
Right.
But I think people in the States have this kind of access. And then maybe one day there'll be some conversations about Canadians getting the access. But right now we seem to be having some problems with tariffs. So I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, so true. Why is online accessibility so important when it comes to this? I mean, obviously you've talked about for yourself at this time being able to move around, the tariffs and things like that. Anything else, Michael, that made it such a wonderful, important thing that, first of all, allowed you to be a part of it?
Well, just think about a person with a disability. It's difficult to plan ahead. If you have, for example, pain flashes or chronic conditions that prevent you from doing what you think you should be able to do at any time, or if you have a vision challenge, or if you have a hearing challenge, sometimes it's safer just to stay in your own home and to be able to go to the bathroom because it's two rooms away. It's less pressure, less stress. You're able to make your own setup. So when I was watching Sundance movies, sometimes because of some pain I've been having with my leg, I was able to watch some movies with my iPad, and I was able to watch some movies here on the computer. So I think people with disabilities are used to creating their own setups to watch movies or to engage with the world, and online accessibility just allows for that to happen.
Nice. Very good. Michael, I'm curious though. Would you suggest that you're getting the adequate quality to take these films in, or as a media person, is it kind of obviously it's not the same experience sitting in a theater and taking it in, but would you say it's as nice as it can be compared to a streaming service?
I think sometimes you just have to make do with what you have. I think I'm happy to watch films at home because I can watch more films at home than I can at a theater. I can sort of sync up my interveners with my online access, as opposed to worrying about meeting my interveners or going to the theater or finding the right seat or dealing with, spreads of contagious diseases or that kind of thing. I could probably watch 10 movies at home, but probably I could only do 2 or 3 movies in the theater in a day.
Right. Wow.
And what were the subtitles like when watching the films?
The subtitles were challenging sometimes. So for English films, I had subtitles like the ones that you'll find on Zoom, like the ones I'm looking at right now, with a black background and white text. And there's many different settings that you can change. So I was impressed with that. But for foreign films, the filmmakers hard-coded their own subtitles. So that meant they had their own understandings of subtitles or what people needed. And oftentimes they were frustrating to deal with. So for example, the filmmakers would hard-code subtitles that were like 7-point font. So I decided for my sanity and for my energy levels, I would not watch those films.
Michael, when we talk of Sunfest compared to the Toronto International Film Festival or other ones, you're very versed in what you know of the film festivals. Do you put them in as they approach a certain category, type, or their mandate for the types of films they'll show? Or is it so wide open, it's just more of a, hey, this film is premiering here versus here? Is there a descriptor, the way of describing Sundance versus, X Theater Festival. What's their mandate?
That's a good question. I think I like to be attending both TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, and Sundance, because they happen at different times of the year. TIFF happens in September, and Sundance happens in January. I like to say that Sundance sets the agenda for the year ahead. Sundance is very independent, but they're not super, super independent. They're just independent. They've given movies like Coda and Moonlight, so it's very interesting to see what's coming out. And then Toronto International Film Festival is a little bit more mainstream, and usually between both of them, you will find your Oscar winners, you'll find the celebrities to talk about, you'll find some interesting movies that are sort of in the back corner that may be forgotten. So that's always an interesting time for me.
Before we let you go, Michael, do you have any recommendations for us?
Yes, I have one recommendation for now, and then maybe more recommendations in the future. But for now, I'd like to recommend Marley Matlin, Not Alone Anymore. It's a documentary. It's not out yet. So perhaps just take a note and be able to watch it soon, hopefully. And it's obviously it's the story of Marley Matlin, who won an Oscar in 1987 for the film Children of a Lesser God. And since I've watched that film a long time ago, I've been appreciative of everything that Marley Matlin has done in her life and still continues to do. For example, she advocated for closed captioning on televisions to be the law since 1991, and sometimes in some ways the United States has been ahead of Canada in terms of accessibility. One of the interesting things that the documentary discusses is that Marley Matlin is a survivor of domestic violence based with her from her ex-husband, and William Hurt was the ex-husband. He's passed away now, and Marley Matlin went through a difficult time, partly because of her isolation as being a deaf person, relying on sign language and not having the words to describe the abuse that she was facing. So she explains how important it is to have resources about domestic violence and other important issues in American Sign Language, which unfortunately the United States is not understanding right now when they cut from ASL videos.
Wow. That sounds like a powerful topic.
Yes, indeed, and amazing, because so many as we sit here didn't know that. And I know, Michael, we look at the timing too. It's tough for persons with disabilities and certain communities within the disability community. It's even harder for them to kind of gain traction, respect, and consideration.
Yes, I think the main message from Marley Matlin's documentary is the power of communication, the power of programs like yours to provide information and resources to many people with disabilities that may often be marginalized and isolated in their communities.
I think we have time for one more recommendation. Do you have any other recommendation for us?
I think I would recommend the documentary called Heightened Scrutiny, especially for what's happening with trans Americans, because this is Sundance, because this is a festival in the United States. Most of the movies are American, although I did see some Canadian ones, and I can talk about those when they come out. But Heightened Scrutiny is really about the trans case that went before the Supreme Court about whether or not gender-affirming care could be protected as a right, or whether or not it should be banned altogether. And Chase Strangio is the first openly trans lawyer that had the opportunity to argue this case before the Supreme Court. So the title Heightened Scrutiny deals with the fact that there's heightened scrutiny on this particular person. He has a burden to bear when he represents his entire community, and so the pressure can be a lot. I was happy to see Elliot Page in the documentary as well, who is Canadian, as you know, and is friends with Jess.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Yes.
No problem. Have a great
Michael.
day. I hope to talk to
You
soon.
too. You too. That was Michael McNeely giving us the highlights of the Sundance Film Festival for people with disabilities.
Great conversations on the show. Nisreen, we'll see you tomorrow when we reconvene for the program. Remember to check out our podcast from our podcast platform of choice, yours out there too, and give us a rating and review while you're doing it if you don't mind. On the next program, blind gamer Marcus McCracken gives us his candid reviews of built-in gaming accessibility for two popular games making the rounds out there, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We'll have those conversations, that one, and so much more on our program. We're waving at you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.